Page 42. Black. The bus driver's name was Sidney Parker. He remembered me taking the bus with the team from school. The cops got him a copy of our yearbook, and he picked my picture out cold. At least I knew for sure he was alive. The detectives read my rights to me. The tall one had it all memorized. He bent over every word like he really enjoyed it. But I was looking at the faces of Casey and Miss Randolph more than I was listening. I was wondering what they thought about me, especially Coach. The cops searched my locker for the gun. The older one pulled out a shirt my mother sewed. He went in and out of every pocket. I could feel my mother standing right next to me, waiting to put her foot up my ass. This was going to be the saddest day of her life, only she didn't have a clue yet. I changed into my street clothes and they cuffed me. We went down the back staircase, the same one Jesse used to let Eddie and me come up to see the games when we were younger. I remember wanting to wear an LIC jersey just like him. All the way down, I was thinking about how Jason was killed in that game upstate. Everybody on the tape was running in different directions. You couldn't make out a thing until the TV station put a white spot on the kid stabbing him with a chair leg. It didn't make any sense. They didn't have any beef. Jason was playing ball, and that kid was sitting in the stands, ready to blow. People around my way said it was because of that natural hatred, that line between blacks and whites that can't get erased no matter what. I just remember hating that kid's guts because of what he did to Jason, not because he was white. And everybody I knew, no matter what color, hated him too. We reached the bottom and the detectives pushed the door open. I expected to see Jason standing on the other side wearing his uniform with the C for captain on his chest. I knew he'd be shaking his head over everything Eddie and me got mixed up in. The door swung open fast. It slammed hard against the red brick wall outside. I flinched, but no one was there. The street was empty, and the cops walked me over to their car. The detectives did most of the talking on the ride to the station. I knew enough from watching police shows on TV to wait for a lawyer before I said too much. But they kept dogging me about my partner, and when I wouldn't answer, they started calling him the shooter. "Are you going to take the fall for this alone while the shooter walks?" the tall one asked me. "He must be a real good friend of yours if you don't want to give him up," said the older one. Who are you 2 or 3 closest friends, Marcus? Because if you don't tell us, other people will." Eddie must have been in a real panic, stressing over getting nabbed too. The cops already had me, and I didn't have to keep pretending it never happened. I was just worried sick about my mother. At first she wouldn't believe it, no matter what anybody said. She'd think it was some kind of mix-up with somebody who looked like me. Then I'd have to tell her. When we got to the precinct, Casey's wife had just come in too. She told me not to worry, that my mother was on her way and that Coach would be there for me as soon as he could. I should have told her to go back to the game and to tell Casey not to come because I wasn't worth the trouble. But I just stood there with my mouth shut until the cops hustled me upstairs. They took me to a small room with a desk, 2 wooden chairs, and a phone. Then they handcuffed me to one of the chairs and left. The only window in the room was cut into the wall on my left side. It was completely blacked out, and I knew the cops were probably watching me from the other side. I tried hard not to look over there, but when I did, I was looking into a black mirror. I tested the sound of my voice and listened to it echo through the room. For a second, I thought I said Eddie's name out loud and held my breath over that, thinking the cops must be listening in. The detective with the gray hair came back and asked me a bunch of easy questions in a quiet voice. He wanted to go over my name and where I went to school. He asked about my family and what I liked to do for fun. Then he took out the school yearbook and found me in the team pictures for football and basketball. The smile never left his face when he asked if a kid on one of these teams was my partner. He asked if I knew the names Wanda Lane or William Maths. But before I could answer, he said, "You should, Marcus. Those are the 2 people you and your partner robbed before Mr. Parker." That felt like a sucker punch in the gut. He didn't smile or anything. His face just stayed even. He started tapping his pencil on the table, and maybe 5 minutes went by without either one of us saying a word. Then the phone rang. He listened for a few seconds and said, "So he's absolutely sure." He put the phone down and pointed to the dark window next to my chair. "Mr. Parker has just made a positive ID on you," said the detective. "He says that without a doubt you were the one in the back seat of his car that night." I didn't have an answer for him, and that sunk even lower into the chair. I turned and looked hard into that window. I wish I could see Parker's face in it. I was scared as anything to meet him again and hear what he might say. Still, I wanted him to know how sorry I was. There was no way to get through. No matter how hard I looked, it was just my reflection in that window, and all I could see was my own black face. The detectives started to press me more about who I was with that night. He ran down a bunch of kids' names to me, one by one. I wouldn't shake my head no or say anything about them, but he kept going down the list anyway. I knew sooner or later he would get to Eddie's name. I tried to get ready. I grabbed on the thin arms of my chair until my knuckles turned white. When he finally said Eddie Russo, a fire shot through my body. My mouth turned bone dry and I could feel the sweat on my temples. They wouldn't let my mother talk to me, and I was almost happy about that. But when they were taking me out, I saw her down at the end of the hallway. She was sitting with Casey and his wife, and jumped up the second she saw me. I could see how scared she was for me. She looked straight at me for some kind of answer, or something she could do. My chest got real tight. I knew it was breathing, but I couldn't say for sure any air was getting through. Then the detective turned me in the other direction. I remember looking back over my shoulder at her, like I belonged in handcuffs.